We had comments for almost an hour from people that were very concerned with housing, with HUD, with the number of things that were mentioned. We're waiting to get the smart rules and smart plans. We're waiting to get that out. That should be out shortly for a review for us. That was pretty much it. Meeting lasted, it was 8:30 or so. It was like I said, it was a well-attended meeting. It was a good meeting that was, that was brought out. A lot of very valid concerns were brought forth. The people that complained or had comments, their concerns were listened to by the board. I know the Board of Selectmen, we're going to work on that. We're still, we're in the preliminary plans of that. We need to see the rules and regulations and stuff like that. But we're working on it. It's a work in progress, as I'll say it. Nick, you were there, right? Amy?
No, you.
Yeah.
Quite a few comments, and
Yep.
there are concerned residents.
Yep. I mean, I guess I'll say it here and say it so that, I mean, we can spend all the time in the world on this plan. Ultimately, it comes down to the people of Pinardville.
Yep.
I mean, they have the final say in the vote. They are the ones that will say yes or no when it comes time to bring the plan forward. And the people of Pinardville speak their piece, so be it. I mean, people have to get out. People have to get out and vote. People have to get out and let their comments and concerns be heard. And I mean, when the voting time comes, that's when it'll be I guess that's when it'll happen. But I mean, for now, everything is in the planning stages. I know it doesn't look very nice. We're going to try to make some of the plans better. We're going to try to work to make everybody happy. Whether we do that or not remains to be seen. We'll see what happens. Next meeting is scheduled for August
13th at 7 p.m.
August 13th at 7 p.m. and it's going to be here.
Yes.
So we have another meeting scheduled here for that.
And the smart code will be out before then?
The smart code will be up shortly after this meeting.
The 13th?
No,
Or
this
no? Oh, today.
Today.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. You were there as well. I mean, any other comments? I think I covered it all, right?
No, you covered it well. And so the next meeting will be on the 13th, and then there's one also scheduled for the 20th. The 13th is to really discuss the smart code, and then the 20th is the committee's chance is really the end of the 30-day public review period to get the public's comments and decide if they're going to suggest any changes or recommendations to move and how we'll proceed to the planning board. So that'll be on the 20th at 7 as well.
And I think that'll be this board's opportunity to weigh in, because really our only opportunity is through our planning board rep.
Correct. Yeah.
So I think this board needs to be familiar with the plan so that we can give him concrete direction.
CIP?
I was at CIP. Excuse me. Derek was in from Town Hall, presented the ADA lift comments. We had some.
I presume everybody in the audience is for public comment tonight? Okay, all right. Are you prepared to start?
Yeah.
And if you like, I'll bring you up and you can start now and we'll go from there. How's that?
Okay, sounds good.
Come on up.
It's Katie Benner, and it's 12 Joffrey Street in Pinardville. And I would like everything that I say to be put on record as it is said. And all the documents that I submit this evening to be put on record also.
Mm-hmm.
I would appreciate that. First, I would like to start to say that I commend you for all the work that you do as selectmen, because coming to these meetings, I see that you're bombarded with paperwork. And it's not easy to go through all the paperwork and the details. And especially the HUD agreements, you know, you have a lot of agreements that you have to read, and it's not always user-friendly, so it's not easy. And of course, someone that wants to put something through, sometimes they're like little kids, you know? They come up to you folks, and they don't give you all the information. My daughter used to do that all the time, you know, she'd just give me some of the basics, but not all the details. And, you know, sometimes the kids ask mommy instead of daddy, or vice versa, so it's not easy. And I see a lot of the government shows on TV where the same thing happens sometimes to the governor. You know, you have people that want to pass these rules, but they don't tell them everything, you know, about it. And they have stacks and stacks they have to go through, and a time limit. So I do understand, okay? But tonight I'm here to say, you folks did approve this plan to move forward, and I'm asking you to please stop it now before it creates any more damages. So please, you have the power to do so, because in our municipal government paperwork, it does say that the Selectmen sets policies for the town. So if you sign this and you're moving forward, you can stop it, all right? Because it has created so much hardship. There's got to be common sense here. It's got to stop, all right? And you received my email, I would assume, okay? And I'm not going to give you all the information over the mic here because there's a lot of confidential information. And we don't want a lot of the things that could happen in my email to happen. And it will, all right? Because when you're advertising property, okay, on the Plan Pinardville map, okay, you keep saying that's only an idea, or it's not really something that the town has to go through with, or the ownership. It's part of a master plan, so it will be an official document. You know, at the last meeting, we did hear that there was a person that lives in Pinardville that has, well, I'm going to say the name because it's in public record already, okay? I was very upset to hear that Mr. and Mrs. Cody's Diner is being created. Sometimes I have a hard time saying what I want to say, I'm sorry. I was very upset to learn that because of this map, that Mr. and Mrs. Cody perhaps lost the sale for their diner. I think that is horrible, advertising this on the internet, showing that her parking is going to be taken away, and even part of her residential property in back of her diner, okay, to be taken away. Again, I know you can tell me all what you want to say about it's just an idea, people don't, but this is not a good reflection at all. We're supposed to be for businesses. This plan is neither for residents nor for businesses, so what is it for? And it's a lot of baloney that folks are saying that it's not apartment buildings, because we see the map. What else are big buildings? You know, and if you read into this big HUD agreement, all right, I'll go into that as I'm going through my list, okay, it does say that if you get into this agreement, HUD rules, all right, I'll have the pages, okay, and I'll give you copies, HUD rules, and you have to do what HUD says, and one of the things that HUD says is you have to build workforce housing, and you have to build apartment complexes. And we already had a little taste of that already. I believe we're at what we have to be at, okay? No one has shown me a paper exactly what we have to have in town. You know, I'm not trying to be prejudiced here. Yes, we need a little bit of everything, but you can't bombard Pinardville with stuff that it's going to cost us an arm and a leg and we're going to go bankrupt. I mean, we have a lot of problems as it is right now. Shaw's is going out of business. They're going to be laying off 84 people. You know, that's bad. We have a lot of work that needs to be done to the schools, 14-point-something million. We lost Barton. You know, a lot of businesses have gone out of business. I mean, you know, you keep doing things that's going to affect us. It's not going to make the situation better. It's going to make it worse. So first of all, I'm asking you, use your power. It can be done. Somehow, some way, there's a loophole where you can stop this now so it does not create any more hardships. All right. I also came up with a petition, and I gave a copy at Plan Pinardville to Brian, all right. I presented him with a total of 94 signatures. It was on 3 different petitions, but basically one was a simplified version, all right. And 94 signatures. Now I'm giving you this evening copies of that, and I would like signatures from, well, a signature or stamp or something saying that you received that. You keep a copy, I keep a copy, that way I know it's been given to you also, okay? It's been stamped by Brian, but you know what I gave Brian, I'm gonna give to you. And in addition to that, there's an extra 10 signatures. So altogether now, we have, 105 signatures. And we have 10 comments, all right? And I don't know if you want me to go through the comments. Some of them, they're not good. They're all bad comments, okay? And so we'll give you that. So again, there's 2 copies of everything. If you have a stamp, and you can stamp them and give me 1 copy back, okay? And if I wanted to give something to Brian, could I give it to you, Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Okay, these are new signatures, okay? They weren't on the petition from before, so these are 11 new signatures. So again, there's 1 for you and one for me, okay? And I already gave the Selecman a copy of that. And, okay, a couple of things, okay? I guess the union leader had an article today. I didn't read it. My girlfriend called me and told me that, you know, my name was listed on there. Not everything was said, though, in the union leader, from what I understand, okay? And again, it's getting down to, it's not apartment buildings. Well, again, that's baloney. It is apartment buildings. So no matter, people can yell and scream and say it's not apartment buildings. The pictures are there. What else are big? I mean, what more do you want? You look at the, we'll get to the HUD agreement. And it says right in the HUD agreement that that's what happens when you get into a HUD agreement. You have to build apartment buildings. I'll give you a copy of this, okay? This is part of this big package over here. A few pages, okay? It's a HUD agreement that was signed on August 9th, 2012, between New Hampshire Housing and Goffstown. All right, and I just looked through a couple pages. On page 13, okay, it says, okay, the grantee, that's HUD, is, no, the grantee is us. The grantee is in default if 1 or more of the following occurs, okay? So if you fail, if there's a failure to meet reporting requirements, so, and that's easy to do, you know, you miss 1 date, you know, you're in big trouble, and they can make you build a whole bunch of houses too. All right, so the grantee says you're in default if you fail to meet a reporting requirement. And also, it says laws and regulations are determined by HUD. So we're going to lose control here, all right? If we give this to HUD, we have no say. As citizens, even probably the selectmen won't have any say, or the planning board, because HUD's going to rule everything. You know, you're better off going to the planning board 1 case at a time. It keeps you folks employed, right? Okay, then trying to let people do anything they want without coming to the planning board. You know, people have to know on the street what's going on, all right? And it can't be for the benefit of only the landlords or the landowners and a few butters that might make money, okay? It has to be to benefit everybody. There's got to be compromise. We're not going to get everything we want in life, and neither should they. But, you know, if you let everything go through, we're going to have to live with consequences, and that could be doubling our taxes, and I can't afford that. Okay, and so I'm going to give you this paper, and it does say that HUD determines that corrective or remedial actions, okay, by the recipients have not been undertaken as instructed. Okay, so if you don't do what they want to do, basically, you're in trouble, and you know they can demand for all the money they gave you. They can make you build a whole bunch of houses, and it also says if a dispute concerning a question of fact arises, the grant officer shall prepare a final decision. So again, it's HUD that's going to rule. Okay, the grantee represents, warrants, and certifies to HUD that it shall administer its grant in a manner that affirmatively furthers fair housing. So there you go. It's all about housing. So if anybody says it's not, it's a lot of baloney, because it is. Okay. So that's a paper that I'm going to enter into the formal record, and you can probably note those pages too. I didn't say them out loud, but there are pages there. Also, okay, there's innovative land use planning techniques, a handbook for sustainable developments, okay, and this comes from the Department of New Hampshire, and it says DES-NH-Gov. Okay, so this has to do with all zoning and what we're doing here, okay? The ability of government to regulate and limit the extent of development on a property for a valid purpose, for a valid public purpose. So again, the government rules here, and if they think it's for the community's best, they'll make you do it. And also, the government can put a first right of refusal on a deed restriction if you get into this. So, I mean, that's can be very complicated, but I surely wouldn't want my property to have a lien on it, and that's what could happen. And also, there's a page 17, okay, that says the ordinances established a development transfer overlay district which serves as a receiving area. So that's what they want Pinardville to be, the receiving area. And that's where I live, and I don't want this. And I've never said anything really in 30 years. This is the first time, all right? So it's not like I'm a bellyacher like I was told I was, or a complainer. You know, this is my home, and I have just as much right as anybody here to speak up, you know? And I'm speaking up for a lot of people too, you know? It's not right what you folks want to do here, okay? And also, there's on page 146 of this handbook, it says, in order to qualify as affordable housing under this article, the developer must make a binding commitment that affordable housing units will remain affordable for a period of 30 years. This shall be enforced through a deed restriction. So these are all things that are bad. I mean, you come and do your title search, and you're going to have all sorts of crap on your property, which is not good. So again, these are all pages for you here, okay? And again, I'm going back to this article that was published in Goffstown today, and people research things before they publish them, you know? And why would we say this if it's not true, all right? Again, Westchester County, New York, accepted a community plan, okay, grant money, and now it's in a battle for its life. Based upon the grant agreement, HUD is now trying to force the county to meet HUD's definition of fair housing by demanding Westchester County change all zoning in every town and build 10,768 affordable homes, okay, at the cost to the Westchester County taxpayer of between $700 million to $1 billion. And that's probably just their share that they have to pitch in for these buildings. And that's not counting, you know, education, roads, and all that, okay? My daughter just bought a house in Newport, and I see this on the news. I guess it's everywhere, you know? This is an article also regarding New Hampshire Housing's Board of Directors recently approved $500,000 loan to support the renovation of Newport Village apartments. And in order for them to get this money, now they have to commit that they're going to continue to make affordable housing for their renters for a minimum of 20 years. That's a long time. That's a big commitment for $500,000. I mean, nowadays, $500,000 is not that much money, not for a town, and they have to make a commitment of 20 years. And the gentleman that just did the plan for us here, okay, he also did the plan for Londonderry, and guess what? Workforce housing plan approved in Londonderry, and that was in the Neighborhood Works site on the web. They now have to build 96 units or 95 units and plus a new road. Okay, this is all workforce housing. All right, so this is another document I want to present. Okay, there are some states that have passed or in the process of passing legislation to stop this. State of Washington, okay, it says Washington and its political subdivisions from adopting and developing environmental and development policies that would infringe or restrict private property rights without due process. Okay, so there's a lot of states. Washington, state of South Dakota, it's a House Bill number 1190 for South Dakota. And there's also House Bill number 42, okay, that has to do with the state of Missouri, and also state of New Mexico, first session of 2013, House Bill 307. Okay, these are all bills against items such as this, okay, that we don't want HUD to rule. We don't want the government to rule, and we don't want the United Nations to rule either, okay? So this again, I'm going to pass this in. Okay, Mr. Adams, last time I was here, he wanted to see backup on where I was getting my figures on taxes. All right, well, I went to the town's assessment, and again, I made copies for you folks. All right, apartment buildings don't bring in much taxes. 42 Maple Street, don't know who that owns by, I don't think it's government affiliated, but the taxes of that, there's 24 buildings, I mean, there's 24 apartments there, it only brings $1,017, okay, per unit. Again, there's another section of 42 Maple Street, and there's 24 in that apartment building, and that only brings about $1,074 for each apartment unit. All right, the government affiliated houses, okay, again, an assessment. You just take the figure, you divide it by how many units, that gets you the assessed value, and then as of the last bill, July 1st bill, it was $25.18 per dollar. I think it may be changing now, but this might be, not the latest because they're going through an assessment. But anyhow, I think this is what's on record and that's what we should go by right now because it hasn't absolutely changed yet. But anyhow, the government affiliated housing, okay, only brings in $1,309 for real estate taxes per unit. And they're very similar to the townhouses that are on Oakwood Circle and Foxtail Lane, okay, which is less than half a mile, I believe, from these townhouses, maybe a mile at the most. And a townhouse that's similar to these, we said around 1,309, and regular townhouses, they bring in from 2,890 to 3,157. So it could be almost 3 times as much in this case over here, and they're very similar. So government housing gets assessed for at least half, if not more, than regular housing. So it doesn't bring in much tax dollar. Mr. Adams wanted information on this, so I have that to back up. Also, the cost per pupil, okay, I have that, $10,592. I have proof of that. Actually, it's gone up. According to the Department of Education for the state, it's $11,079. And I think some of you on the board had maybe different opinions at the time when this came out. Okay, there's comments here from the minutes of August 13, 2012. Mr. Devanza said that he had heard a lot of comments that weren't so good, okay, about this plan. And Sue had said the carrot for this funding, federal funding, is for projects, okay? And it says perhaps a concentration on concentrating housing, okay? Also, the large parcels we have seem to get more condensed for more efficiency of scale. Housing is going up rather than using more land. So the comment and feedback from the community is a concern. And this is before even the plan went out, people were having concerns about it. And again, it relates to housing. I wasn't even in this discussion, so it couldn't have been me that brought up the housing. It wasn't in this plan already, and it's not favorable. Okay, Vice Chairman Groves commented that it wasn't favorable to Goffstown's goal. And there was also mention about the workforce housing that's there right now on that square. And he says it started out, there was supposed to be an X percentage of residential, okay, but it didn't come out that way, all right? And they were concerned at that time that it would drain our resources. And they also spoke about Agenda 21 in these minutes. And this is in the town record, if anybody wants to look them up, okay? And I'm presenting you with this too. So we're not the only ones speaking about that. And I guess I've covered pretty much everything else. I mean, I've told you, figures. I've told you that the plan is just an illusion. It's not everybody that wants this, but the wording and such in the plan is such that it seems like everybody wants this, but we don't. Okay, and the affiliated government housing mix and overlay, it's gonna create too much chaos. Okay, anything's gonna go anywhere, which is bad. All right, and there is strings attached when you get into government housing. All right, and I guess that's about all I have to say for today. But now you have my backup at least. Thank you.
Thank you.
What I will do is the paperwork that you handed us this evening, we'll get copies of that, and I guess we'll...
Immediately after the meeting, we can date stamp those.
Yep, that'll be fine. And if you want those back tonight...
Oh, no, I have copies at home. They're for you folks, okay?
All right, we'll get that out after. Anyone else?
I'm Representative John Burt, and I live at 7 Bay Street.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and fine committee members, for allowing me to speak tonight. What I'd like to do is just, some of it's going to be a repeat of what Selecman Capisano's heard, but one item I didn't touch on last time, and that's why I wanted to bring it to you guys. Carol Quorum sat in front of you, it was several months ago, or even could be a year ago as time flies. I like sitting home and I watch the Selectmen's meetings on GTV, and he brought up one thing. What it was is he had to test after rains. He had to test the water coming out of the drainage pipes and stuff, or in the little streams. And he said what happens is if we don't do it, we could be fined up to $17,000 a day. There's many towns that don't have to deal with that. And the reason we do is because we got in bed with the federal government on a program, I'm sure. And that is what caused this possible $17,000 fine per day to the Goffstown taxpayers. So to me, when we look at the government and their programs and they're trying to help us, as they say, we really need to look at the full picture, the real full picture. Because now if we don't test our waters just the way they think that we should, and rules change with them all the time, we could be fined $17,000 a day. If there's any way that we can get out of that disaster, I would like to see that. The other is that Brian in Tennessee said that, we should trust HUD, and they wouldn't lie to us. HUD's good. Well, that's the same government that also gave us, the Benghazi, that disaster, the IRS spying on Republicans, Tea Parties, the AP Press, even CBS. I was shocked on that one. And many others, listening to our cell phones, the Snowden deal. I'm sure the government's listening to me right now. The Fast and Furious. There's so many things with the government. So when somebody says, well, you got to trust the government. There's just so many things that show us that we probably shouldn't. The other is town versus HUD. Mrs. Benner really said a lot on that, so I'll be extremely brief. Bottom line, if Goffstown says, well, we only want 34 workforce housing or low income housing, whatever you want to call it, yet they say, no, we want 1,000. Who's going to break that tie, according to the contract that I've read, is HUD. They're going to say, no, it's going to be 1,000, and we have no choice. So we really should be looking at that extremely close. Again, just throwing it out there, at the beginning, everything that people say at the beginning, for example, and again, some people think that I'm against rails to trails, and I'm not. But I like using that because it is classic government. At the beginning, they said, oh, we're going to have dandelions out in the woods, and people are going to be able to enjoy the walks. We're going to have fun times, and it won't cost the taxpayers $1. Well, now it's costing us, and if you get the true numbers, and that's what's hard to get, if you really dig deep, we're spending tens of thousands of dollars a year on rails to trails. They just had Neville down where I live. He was there 3 days. He isn't working for free, but when you call to get the figure on it, well, a couple $100. Wow, is that cheap? It doesn't add up. With us, with the meeting the federal guidelines or the state guidelines on workforce housing, they're saying, I don't think we've met them. Well, I really think we have, because the law is very vague. I remember it coming to my committee up to the State House. We fought on this because I was a co-sponsor to get rid of workforce housing in the state of New Hampshire. Unfortunately, the bill died over in the Senate. We passed it in the House, and the Senate killed it. We came real close to winning that because they show that forcing towns to build workforce housing does not work in most states. So a lot of states have got away from it. But our law is extremely vague. We've met workforce housing guidelines. We have a little bit of it here, we've met it. And until the government tells us that, or the state tells us we haven't, we shouldn't be looking at any more.
Glad we came early. Nobody here.
The other is with the public testimony, you know, I don't know if you watched last time, but it was very unprecedented that somebody spoke at public comment, and then Brian from Tennessee was allowed to really debut what she said, and then also two board members, you know, basically said, you know, came in and chimed and ripped her testimony apart. You know, I would hope that the selectmen would send a strong message that that is not a way to conduct a hearing or a meeting. So if you could send that, you know, to the chair. You know, and I know, you know, there's so many rules, it's hard to, you know, so I'm not condemning anybody for allowing it. You know, I think she's doing what she thinks is best. You know, I did speak up and then it was corrected.
I
But,
think
you know,
somebody said that the other day,
to
too.
allow that, because it is so hard to get the public here to speak.
Right.
You know, they'll crab to me all day, and they love crabbing to me. You know, apparently I got a good ear or something, because they're chewing on it all the time. But then when I tell them, I say, well, come to the selectmen and talk to them. I can't go in there, I'll freeze. Well, the first time I walked in here, I had a hard time speaking, I was You know, it takes time to get used to you guys, but, and not that you're, you know, throwing eggs or anything, but there is an intimidation factor coming in front of a board.
We're not that bad.
Yeah, no, you guys are pretty friendly, but, you know, so if there's any way that you guys could, you know, encourage people to come here, because I know you guys want to hear from the public. And they want to talk to you, but they just don't dare to come in here. So I'm encouraging people all the time. I did say at the last meeting, I was against Plan Pinardville, and I still am. Two things that they want to put in there that would make me feel a little better. And if there's any way you guys could even suggest that it's in there. One is eminent domain, if I'm saying the word right. You know, the only way they're gonna get some of these projects done is eminent domain. That's the only way. And bottom line, even if Goffstown says, oh, hey, we aren't gonna do that, HUD has the final say. Down in Connecticut, they ripped a bunch of houses down, beautiful homes. People lived there forever. And those homes are gone to build a mall. And guess what? The mall's never been built. The project fell through after the houses were tore down. And who shared all of that tax? So now they removed, say, $500,000 worth of taxes. The rest of the town had to suck that tax in. And the $1 million tax, if that's the number, I'm just throwing those out, that the mall was supposed to pay, never came. So now the taxpayers got screwed on the end of that deal. And so, you know, if there's any way that we can put in there that, you know, we won't take land if this deal goes through by eminent domain. And then the other is there's a lot of concerns from people chewing on me, you know, talking to me about people on the board making a profit off this. They're saying that there's people on the board that shouldn't be there because they're from Manchester or Hooksett or Bedford. You know, why are they on the Goffstown board? Why are they talking, you know, coming up here? And are they gonna make a profit? And if they're not gonna make a profit, then you know what, I'll look at it. But from what I'm being told, that there's a possibility some of these board members are gonna make a lot of money off this. And finally, what the last one is, and I just can't say it enough, we can do all of what we want locally. The zoning and the planning board, they make variances all the time. They look at the property, they talk to the neighbors, and they go, you know what, we can do this. You know, we want a street light, you know, let's say a store goes up and they want a street light, and the neighbor goes, well, but it might shine in my bedroom. We can put a little blockage there and block that light right out. We can do anything we want. We don't need a guy from Tennessee to come up here and tell us how to live. And we definitely don't need the federal government to jump in bed with. Because with this program right here, you know, we got our socks off, and we're unbuckling the pants to jump in bed with these people. It isn't gonna be pretty once we get in there. Yeah, I'm not gonna wanna bunk up with them. And I hope you guys don't either, because it is just bad if you look at the full picture. Where HUD has 100% final say, the eminent domain, it's the only way it's gonna work. We're gonna have to force property. It's a bad deal. And then to build all these, you know, 3 or whatever story high complexes they want, because they have the final say of how tall and how big and everything else is. We don't have any say over that. It just won't fit Pinardville. So I want to thank you for your time, and if you really could stretch to the members of that committee to please, you know, look at everything on this and to put eminent domain, that we won't take that, because property rights to me is very, very dear to my heart. You know, it's property rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick.
Bill Wynn, 292 Mass Road, Goffstown. Probably wondering what the heck I'm gonna have to say after everything else could be said. Not too much. I really wanna commend the people at Goffstown High School the other night on the Village Road Works item. Boy, did I like that. Got there, met a lot of nice people, almost no negative comments. Everything was displayed out in front of the stage. Members of the community were there, residents, a lot of residents, and they liked what they saw. And during the Q&A period, items were brought up, and there was confirmation by Carl, and I'm trying to think about Mr.
Long, Mike Long.
What was his name?
Mike Long.
Mike Long, that's right. What a great way to present a meeting, and I have to tell you, what a good event that was. All we needed was cookies and milk, and it would have made it better. It couldn't have been much better. Open and transparent and full. It was really, really nice. So I want to thank all the people on that committee and everybody who did the hard work on it, because it was very, very wholesome. And that one rotary near the library is the toughest answer, and hopefully something will get worked out. Anyway, I don't know what else I can say, but I will say I've tried to find some positive input on this Plan Pinardville item. The only thing I could find is the crayons and the kids back in May. When you try to compare the two presentations, they differ so much, so very much. And the way it's being presented to the community is pretty much stuffed in our direction. Full disclosure is not given. Answers are not provided to the satisfaction that they need to be. And that's the problem. If this particular ad hoc committee was handling things the way things were handled for the village road plan, we'd be further down the track, and I'm sure there'd be some positive things. I can't find anything positive on this. So I'm in tune with Mrs. Brenner. I would like to see this board call it quits. I'd like to see something done to get the people involved, get this ad hoc committee shut down, call Mr. Wright in Tennessee, tell him you're going to hang up on him now. There's more to this that hasn't been said here tonight. It was close, but I will tell you, it would be a really good idea if this whole thing got shut down. We've got a planning board that is very aggressive right now. Been watching it. It wants to get things done. We've got a zoning board that's capable of doing what this plan can do without attachments, strings, or anything. Why can't we do it that way? Why haven't we done it that way? That's my feeling. So in closing, I wouldn't want to be in Brian Rose's seat right now. That man's got the toughest job in this town as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how he comes to work and does what he needs to do. He has got a difficult job. But I really like his resume. He's very well educated. We're good to have a man in this position in this town to be able to handle it. But you know what? With his skills and his knowledge, we have a man that's in this town hall that could really get something done without HUD, without grants, without anything else pushing in our direction from big government. So again, please find a way to shut this whole thing down for a couple of reasons, and then I'll sign off. Number one, it's good if we just do it ourselves. And number two, exposure. Shut it down. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Anyone else in the audience?
What about the fire department and emergency, with hospitals and stuff?
Can you come up to the mic, please, ma'am?
I don't want to go up there. Excuse me.
I'm Dee Doucette, I live at 45 Orchard Street,
Mhm.
and what they've said touches a lot of the bases, but you didn't consider the fire departments, a hospital, emergency care 24/7. We got a small fire department in Pinardville, and I reckon the one up here is bigger, but still they're miles apart from anywhere. And if you want to put in all these new housings, what's going to happen then? And then you've got the school, so you don't need more school. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Anyone else in the audience? I guess Catherine will make it 8:10 and close the public comment.
What?
All the information we've heard tonight, we'll bring it back to the remaining board. I wasn't able to make it tonight. We'll sit down, digest it, we'll have time to read it, we'll have time to look at it. Like I said, we have another meeting coming up August 13th and on August 20th. And we'll see where it goes from there.
Derek, could we get, can all the board members get copies of the materials that were handed out?
Absolutely, yes.
Could we also get, I know the contract is online, that's posted.
Yes.
Could we get the application, copies of the original application from the town for the grant?
Yes.
I'd just like to say thank you for the people who came in here tonight. I think you made a great presentation. I wish we had had 50 people here. Stronger numbers, but I think you're doing the right thing.